Pride, a Seven Deadly Sins story, is a Lifetime true story movie that I believe is possibly inspired by Sweetie Pie's Miss Robbie Montgomery, her son Tim Norman, and the 2016 murder of Miss Robbie's grandson, Andre Montgomery. The Lifetime movie stars Stephanie Mills as Miss Birdie. The script is written by Felicia Brooker and is directed by Troy Scott. Pride, a Seven Deadly Sins true story movie, is inspired by novels from author Victoria Christopher Murray, a consulting producer on the film. T.D. Jakes serves as the executive producer on this Lifetime movie. Now, as I mentioned before, I believe, now this is just my opinion, I think that Pride, a Seven Deadly Sins story takes its inspiration from the Sweetie Pie's Tim Norman murder case. Now, Tim was found to be the mastermind in an elaborate plot to murder his nephew, Andre, for insurance money. Andre had gone to live with his grandmother to get his life back on track, but he always feared his uncle was after him. Now, the movie does not follow the trajectory of the Andre Montgomery murder case. Okay, so the movie just takes its inspiration from, I believe, parts of that story. It twists the plot a bit, changes the names of the characters, the locations, but still, when you watch this movie, you're going to see elements of this movie, and you're going to connect it to that true story about Andre's murder. Now, let's talk about the plot and the synopsis of Pride, a Seven Deadly Sins story. Now, we're introduced to Ella, a young lady in Texas who can't stay out of trouble. She comes from a good family, but finds herself locked up. And well, it's Grandma to the rescue. Miss Birdie, a fine, sweet bakery owner with her own reality show on television, bails her estranged granddaughter out of jail. Now, this is the last person Ella wants to see. Who is this lady? She hasn't seen or heard from her grandmother since her mother's funeral. Plus, her grandma, Miss Birdie, has never shown any interest in her before now. And there is another problem. The grandmother has conditions for bailing her granddaughter out of jail. She must go live with her to help get her life back on track. And she has to work at the bakery, making minimum wage like everybody else. Nothing like showing a wayward girl responsibility. Now, Ella is unhappy with this. She does not know her grandmother. She does not want to leave her home, and she does not want to move to another state. She also wonders if her grandmother has ulterior motives. After all, she does mention that she wants to keep the family name out of the gutter. Now, is this why Miss Birdie has a sudden interest in her granddaughter? So Ella settles in, but as she looks around the mansion, she discovers a room where all kinds of activities are taking place. It's a rough bunch of characters in that room. And as she stumbles near it, she comes face to face with her Uncle Gabe, a tall, overbearing man who has a menacing presence. Now, Ella's mother, Tasha, passed away years before, more than a decade before. And Uncle Gabe is her mother's brother. She practically raised Gabe while her mother, Miss Birdie, was busy working on her career. So Uncle Gabe operates this respectable family bakery business by day, but by night, he deals in some very shady activities. Now, the grandmother, Miss Birdie, doesn't really seem to know what's going on. I mean, she sees certain things, but she's not making the connection. She's either not making the connection or really not paying attention to what's going on. Despite Ella's comfortable new life, Gabe puts a damper on things for her because Gabe walks around as if he is the owner of the business and the owner of the house. So Ella is uncomfortable with him. Not only is she uncomfortable around him, she's a bit afraid of him. Instinctively, she knows that something isn't right about her Uncle Gabe. Now, Ella's mother, Tasha, and Miss Birdie, they had a complicated relationship. And Ella seems to know about her mother's troubled history with her grandmother. And this affects Ella's relationship with her grandmother. Ella is angry. Ella is resentful. There are some moments between them in the movie where Miss Birdie is telling her about her mother. And the reality capture these tender moments on set because, well, it makes for good TV. Miss Birdie, she's the one that wants to break the family's cycle of poverty, of high school dropouts, of college dropouts, of broken relationships. And she thought if she went to college, her dreams would come true. But Miss Birdie became pregnant with Tasha and had to drop out of school. And then she had to do what she knew how to do, which was cook and bake. Little did she know the bakery business was her path out of this cycle of poverty. Now, meanwhile, Miss Birdie's daughter, Tasha, has seemed to lose her way. She gets involved with the wrong guy, and her life takes a completely different turn. She gets off track, becomes pregnant with Ella. And so Miss Birdie is disappointed in Tasha because Tasha was supposed to be the one to break the family curse and make the family better for generations to come. So that's how Miss Birdie and Tasha became estranged. Now, this bakery business, Miss Birdie's bakery, is a hit. People line up for her sweet goodies. Now, there's an eerie scene in the movie where Ella is home alone, and she notices that somebody has been in that house. Someone has been there. Someone has tampered with her grandmother's jewelry box. Now, Miss Birdie comes in right at the time Ella discovers this, and Miss Birdie accuses Ella of moving the box or of knowing what happened to her jewelry box. Now, eventually, there is a burglary in the home. And the same thing, Miss Birdie seems to place the blame on Ella. She's accusing Ella of all of this because, after all, Ella is the one with the record. Ella has been arrested. And so she blames this theft on her granddaughter. Miss Birdie doesn't see any real wrong in Gabe. She knows that Gabe has had a hard time. And she sort of blames herself for this a bit. But Gabe is her rock. He's her son, her business partner, and she doesn't suspect anything. You know, she is sickly, and she wants to make sure that her business is well taken care of. So she decides that she's going to give her granddaughter Ella part of the business. Now, when Gabe hears this, he is furious. He can hardly contain his jealousy and his anger. How in the world is Ella, as young as she is, going to come in and run the business, let alone have part of the business? But she deserves it. Miss Birdie believes that she deserves it because this is the part of the business that she was going to give her daughter Tasha anyway. So Gabe was never really going to have the entire business. So this movie's theme is about pride. And the goings on in this movie are a subject of pride. Pride is destroying this family. They don't need any more money. There are plenty of betrayals, family secrets, and what they need in their life is God. Now that's the focus of the movie. They need to repent because they have been so prideful. Ella is disappointed because, after all, it wasn't her who disabled the alarm. She didn't take anything. She's the one who has been hurt in a situation, and everybody believes that she's the thief. She wants to go back home because she's not getting the support that she needs. I mean, at least back home, she felt like people were more real. If they didn't like you or they didn't trust you, you knew it. But here she's among family members, and even they don't trust her. So she wants to go home. But Miss Birdie is torn. She loves her granddaughter. She's torn because Ella has been stealing. So of course, Ella's the first person that she thinks of. It never occurs to Miss Birdie that it could be her own son doing these things to her. Things become even more strange after Ella has to take an exam for a life insurance policy she did not sign up for. I mean, Gabe is the beneficiary, so why is she even having to take any sort of exam for insurance that Gabe is the beneficiary of? Now, producers are still there. The TV producers are capturing all of these moments on TV. Now, Gabe is overstepping his boundaries. He's spending his mother's money to buy things for the business. He's making changes to the business and expanding the business without his mother's permission. I mean, it's his mother's business. She's the person who worked to build this family business, this family legacy. Yes, he's been helpful, but she is the person who has the final say, and he isn't respecting that. One part in the movie that I believe is very tender. It's a moment where Miss Birdie is talking with her granddaughter. And she realizes that she did make mistakes with her son, Gabe. She made those mistakes, but she had a good reason. She was trying to build a legacy. She was trying to do well for the family. But in the end, it possibly hurt Gabe in some way. Gabe really took things hard when his sister passed away because she had been like a mother to him while his mother was away. And when she died, it broke him. And that is the point when Miss Birdie saw the light in his eyes dim. I really appreciated that moment, and I thought that was a really touching scene. There are other touching scenes in there too. Because you know what? If you've ever had to deal with a wayward child or deal with a child that passed away suddenly, tragically, or went away to prison or did something that you didn't like, that is very traumatizing to the mom as well. And the only thing you can do is ask why. You look back and you go, well, maybe I did this, or maybe that I wasn't there enough, or whatever. At the end of the day, that child has made the decisions that they made, especially when they become adults. It's up to them to make their lives better. It's up to them to make good decisions. And the movie sort of brings that out too, that it isn't Miss Birdie's fault. That yeah, maybe she wasn't there, but Gabe had the opportunity to change his life if he wanted to. He could have been focused. He could have made good decisions, but he chose not to. And that shouldn't be on Miss Birdie. But Miss Birdie can't help but feel that it is. And wow, I think it's a great movie. And it's sad in parts too, because the situation is Miss Birdie doesn't really know her son. It's much worse than she probably ever knew. Gabe had a real mean streak, a bully. He was a bully to the core, and he had a jealousy and a deep down hatred for others. And it seems like all of the love and nurturing in the world couldn't have controlled that. It just seems like some people are just born that way.
Miss Robbie, the owner and creator of Sweetie Pies, her son, allegedly set it all up. James Timothy Norman, seen in this mugshot, is now charged with conspiracy and the murder-for-hire death of his nephew, 18-year-old Andre Montgomery. The Mr. Tell the meticulous murder happening all in the midst of the family filming their popular cable TV reality show, Welcome to Sweetie Pies. The show based off the popular soul food restaurant in St. Louis.
I thought that this movie did a great job showing us the other side. The most important side is always the victim side. But this movie sort of lets us in and gives us an inside view of what a mother would be thinking if her child was on the wrong side of the law, what that's like to deal with. And I think you're really going to get an inside view of what that's like. There's also many lessons in pride and how pride can destroy you and destroy your family. Pride stopped Miss Birdie from seeing the truth about her son. Pride stopped her from reaching out to her daughter and letting that estrangement take place because of her pride, because her daughter wasn't doing what she wanted her to do. So she lost her daughter. She was more concerned about the shame brought upon the family than she was concerned about her daughter. And that shame, she thought she had escaped the shame, but the shame came back through her beloved son, Gabe. Now, what the movie does not address is how that criminal side can be passed down as well. Now, remember, I told you before in the movie, she was trying to break these pathological generational cycles of being poor, of not finishing school. But it doesn't address the criminal side. That can be passed down too. Look into epigenetics. I've told you guys this in many videos now, that I've been studying that, looking at generational pathologies that are passed down generation after generation. If something bad happens in your family, you can usually trace it back on either side of the family, that very same thing happened, even if it was generations ago. You can pass down mental illness. You can pass down criminal behavior too. That's not me saying that. It's called epigenetics.
A lot of the suffering that you see people going through today is stemming from memories being passed down many generations from ancestors. This is not pseudoscience, this is not make-believe or fabrication. This is real peer-reviewed science being used in real science laboratories by real biologists and doctors and everybody right now. It's not made-up stuff.
So the movie doesn't really get into that side of it, but it's an interesting side to think about. The movie also doesn't address judgment. I think you have to be very careful how you judge people, because you don't know which side of the coin you're going to be on. You may boast about what you wouldn't do if you found yourself or your child in that situation, but the truth is you have no idea what you would do because you have not been in that situation. I promise you don't know what you're going to do. So be careful. Especially those of you who don't have children. Because if you don't know, sometimes life will show you what you would do in that situation. Let's lighten things up a bit. On a lighter note, I think you'll be pleased by the performances of this cast. Stephanie Mills is pleasingly convincing as Miss Birdie, and you'll enjoy performances by Thomas Miles as Gabe, Kia King as Ella, and Erica Campbell appears in this TV film. Pride, a 7 Deadly Sins story airs on April 8th at 8/7 Central on the Lifetime channel.
I'm about to walk across stage, it hits me. That's it. I'm doing it. I'm done. No more high school.